Hey, Scott, thanks for jumping on the call today. I just thought I would ask you to share with the audience that we've been reaching out to, your experience by setting up these captive insurance. So can you share basically your background and your business career, like with your auto dealerships, that led you to explore the area of captive reinsurance? In other words, how did you find out about the concept initially, and what motivated you to want to establish your own reinsurance company?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Fred. Yeah. So my background is the retail automobile business, and I was in the car business for about 40 years. 25 of that I was a dealer, and I ended up having 3 franchise stores and 2 used car lots. I had a couple real estate companies. I had vending companies, insurance companies. And so to answer your question, I had 19 LLCs in various forms. But to answer your question, how I got into the reinsurance is because it's probably 90 to 95% of car dealers do some form of reinsurance. So it's very well known in the car business. So that's how I was introduced to it. And I started in 2003 with my first reinsurance company. Now I have 6 reinsurance companies. I have 6 reinsurance companies, and I did a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong on my journey of reinsurance. And now it's kind of nice to give back, and I can help people not make the mistakes I made that probably cost me millions of dollars because I made the wrong move. I zigged when I should have zagged. So anyway, that's kind of my background.
That's interesting because that really led me to my next question for you. Why do you have more than one captive reinsurance company?
Well, so the reason I have 6 reinsurance companies is because I had multiple minority partners in my main businesses. And so we structured it where each business basically had their own reinsurance company. And that way the ownership of the main company kind of mirrored, it did mirror the reinsurance company. And I just felt like that was a good way to separate the risk. And if I had one partner that had a good risk management program and ran his alternative risk the correct way, if he was doing it right, and then maybe had a partner that was not doing it as well, the guy that was doing it right wouldn't be penalized. So that's why I separated mine out to 6 reinsurance companies.
Very interesting. There was a Motley Fool article from March the 4th of 2022 written by Courtney Carlson. It was entitled 147 Billion Reasons Why Warren Buffett Loves the Insurance Industry. And in the article it says, Scott, quote unquote, insurance companies collect fees before providing their service, paying insurance claims. Because they collect premiums up front, they will have a pile of cash, their so-called float. That is theirs to deploy until it's depleted by policyholders' claims. Now, Mr. Buffett notes, he says, it's money we hold and can invest, but that does not belong to us, unquote. Now, Scott, since these are contributions that are made to a reinsurance company, they're considered premiums, right?
Yes.
And as a result, they're deductible as an expense under the Tax Reform Act of 1986, passed by Congress and enacted by President Reagan. Can you give some insight for us on how this benefited when you made your contributions to your captive reinsurance companies?
Yeah, well, it benefited me because, the majority of what I did, not all of it, but a big portion of it was when we sold extended service contracts in the car dealerships. We developed our own reinsurance companies to take on that risk of those service contract policies. So, yeah, and like Mr. Buffett says, the money comes in, but it sits there waiting to pay claims. But you get the whole premium up front, and the claims may not be paid for 3 or 4 years down the road. Therefore, you get to use someone else's money to build your insurance company or reinsurance company, whichever it is. So you get all that investment income starts earning day one, and many times the investment income pays for a big portion of the claims whenever you do have to pay them. And the seed money that went in, not very much of it gets touched. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, and it actually leads right into my next one. And You have once shared a conversation with me several months ago that your reinsurance companies made you the most amount of money. What brought you to that conclusion?
Well,
Or what brings you to that conclusion? Because these are ongoing reinsurance companies that you run.
right. Well, yeah, definitely the ROI is the best of anything in my portfolio, any of my companies. And the reason is whenever the owner of the company decides to start one of these, we manage the company for them. So if you think about like an Allstate in the world, let's say they run a 40% loss ratio. So you think, well, they get to keep 60% of that money plus investment income. That's true, but they have to pay a high dollar CEO. They've got to pay for office space. They've got to pay for all these claims adjusters. They've got to pay for Super Bowl ads, marketing budgets, all that stuff. So that takes down their net profit of the company. Well, the thing about us, it's going to be the insurance manager for the reinsurance company. The owner doesn't have to really lift a finger. So the money just goes in. You pay a small percentage for us to manage the money. We can't touch the money. The owner controls the money, but we run the company for a small percentage. So, and we don't have any overhead. They don't have to hire any employees. And that's what I found out. I didn't have to hire any employees. They just managed it for me. So my overhead was very, very low.
It just almost seems like it's too good to be true type of a scenario. With all the captive companies that you do own, have you been able to use any of the money that has not been utilized for any potential claims? Can you give us some examples as to how you were able to utilize some of this unused cash that's just sitting there in the float, like Mr. Buffett said?
Oh, yeah. So when it's sitting there and float waiting to pay claims, the money's ultimately going to pay a portion of claims. But yeah, I invested in real estate. The thing about it is, and this is what Mr. Buffett has created, you become your own bank. It's an insurance company, but you become your own bank. If you look in the United States, some of the largest lenders are insurance companies. So as that money is stacking up, like say you become your own bank. So it's what I realized real quick is, hey, I can go buy real estate. I can invest this in the stock market. I can loan it to, key employees. I mean, I can loan it to really kind of whoever I want. So that's the one thing. I did many things with it. I created customer retention programs with the money. I created employee retention programs with the money. So they're just so flexible. So once the money's over there, yeah, you get to use the money before you pay claims. So does that answer your question, Fred?
Yeah, it really does. And I think I'll have some follow-ups a couple minutes from now. I understand, Scott, in order to be considered a premium that could be a tax-deductible expense, there must be actual risks that a third-party independent actuary assesses of a business. Now, these risks could be something you're currently insuring, or in many cases are risks a business owner doesn't even realize that should be covered. Now, were you able to raise your deductibles on any commercial insurance risks you were currently covered for, and also allow you to be covered for any potential risks that you were not even aware of? So, in other words, what happens to those premiums that are for potential claims if they're never realized?
Yeah. So yeah, the actuary plays a big role in this. So the third party actuary comes in, and he doesn't work for us. He doesn't work for the client. And so he comes in and he assesses, and he sets the risk, whatever the risk is. So yeah, from there you start paying premiums. And yeah, so the money sits there waiting to pay claims, and all insurance companies are C corps. So whenever you do at the end, whenever you do push the money out, it's capital gains at 21%, or a lot of times 15%.
What are some of the most rewarding benefits, Scott, of running your own captive reinsurance company that we often already discussed so far?
So, really some of the overlooked benefits are you use this alternative risk management program. You use it, and you really realize that you become a lot more responsible with your traditional insurance. Like, I never wanted to take on any of the catastrophic risk, but as we raised deductibles and did stuff like that, you become much more aware of how your managers, how your employees are treating the risk management program in the company. And a lot of times we would incentivize people for safety things around the businesses. So because you stack up a big pile of cash, and now you got to put your insurance company owner hat on and say, hey, how do I protect this cash? If we don't take a little more responsibility for our safety programs in the businesses, I'm not going to get to keep as much of the cash. If I take responsibility, we run a tighter ship. More of this cash will be retained.
So as a result of possibly because of this third-party independent actuary assessing risks that you're already insured for with other companies, you're not necessarily replacing those companies, but you might be able to raise your deductible with those companies because you've now structured your risks elsewhere with your own captive reinsurance company. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, correct. That's one thing that I never wanted to take on, the catastrophic risk. I always wanted, wanted to take that first layer of risk and lay off the catastrophic stuff. Similar to what people do with health insurance these days. These high deductible health insurance plans or medical plans. It's a similar concept that we're going to take responsibility for the first layer of risk, and then we'll let the Blue Cross Blue Shield or the Allstates or whoever the insurance company is take the higher dollar amount of risk.
And I'm thinking of some of these potential risks that they're already insured for, or possibly they're not even insured for. Like, for example, in the construction industry, as you know, being in the real estate business too, the concept of rework.
Yes, yeah, and that's a lot of, you mentioned it earlier in this interview, a lot of times people don't realize what they're already self-insuring anyway. And many builders, roofers, they offer a workmanship guarantee or a homeowner's policy. Like builders, when they build houses, a lot of states are required to offer a 1-year builder's warranty. And so when they do that, they're just self-insuring that guarantee or that warranty. And it's what we can do via the actuary is establish a warranty that they can actually put into their reinsurance company. And then when they have rework, like you said, you got to send a crew out there with a bundle of shingles or whatever to do the rework. That's when you file a claim. And it's really no different than what they were doing before they started their own reinsurance company. It's really the same dollars. They just weren't getting the benefits of owning their own insurance company that they do, when you have an insurance company. So really nothing changes. The dollars are the same. You just get more benefits when you have your insurance company.
It sounds like from what you're talking about, there's probably an infinite number of concepts that could be possibly helped with these reinsurance companies. Like, for example, what if there was a medical practice, because of the concept of the high cost of malpractice insurance? Would this concept of the captive reinsurance be able to help that medical practice by possibly raising their deductible to possibly lower their malpractice insurance that they're paying separately?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it varies from state to state, but yeah, same concept. Don't take on the catastrophic risk, but yeah, raise deductibles. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do in the medical world. In fact, I've got a few medical doctors that I work with that love our program.
Scott, since you own multiple business ventures, how can your captive reinsurance company protect you against lawsuits and also protect your assets?
Yeah, since the money is sitting in an insurance company waiting to pay claims, it's hard for creditors and litigious people to get to the money, so to say. So it does sit over there there's a lot of asset protection found around the premiums that are sitting there waiting to pay claims. And there was did I answer all that? Or there was a first part of that question, or did I get it all?
I think you pretty much got it all. One of the questions I forgot to ask you is, because these are reinsurance companies that are set up here in the United States, after they establish the reinsurance company, the captive reinsurance company, how soon after it's established do they have access, does the business owner have access to the monies, these premiums, the unearned premiums in their captive reinsurance company?
Yeah. So in the program, usually after 30 days, the client has access to the premiums. Now, We do require some reserves to make sure we have money readily available to pay claims. But beyond that, you can invest the funds. It's a lot of flexibility on how you can invest them. But access to the cash is pretty quick.
Yes, and that was my understanding. And the business owner gets to select the bank account of their choice in the United States. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think I said this earlier, but we run the insurance company for the business owner, but we don't have access to the cash. Just the owner has access to the cash, and we don't manage the investments. That's up to the owner and whoever he wants to manage the cash. Now we have ideas on, hey, we've got a client that does this, and we don't want to manage the money. But yeah, that's all up to the owner, where they put the money, what bank, what brokerage, that kind of stuff. We don't have anything to do with that.
Well, I really want to thank you, Scott, for taking the time out today to go over this. I just have one last question, and that would be, from your experience, what advice would you give to someone that's listening to this that might consider starting their own captive reinsurance company?
I think the advice I would give is, a lot of times it's a little tough for people to wrap their head around, because they're so used to, I'll call it, traditional insurance. But my advice would be to try to wrap your head around it and take some time to research it and listen. Maybe get on a call and listen to how it works, and then do your own research and figure out if this is something for you. It took me it took me a few months of research to figure out how it worked and if I wanted to do it. And when I started back in 2003, there wasn't much on the internet. There wasn't much out there to study. Whereas now with technology and our group, we can push a lot more information a lot faster. But my advice would be, if you think it's too good to be true, you just need to take a look at it, because I can tell you it's the real deal. And it's changed our lives, really.
Well, all I can tell you is, I've just found out about this a few months ago. I was not even aware of it, and I've been in the financial field for, over 48 years now. And this was the first time I ever heard about it, and that's why, getting to know you and everybody that you're connected with that has so many years of experience, it just made perfect sense to me, and that's why we're reaching out to private business owners from the United States, and hopefully they'll listen to the entire interview, and if they're interested, hop on a call and we'll possibly chat again.
I'll tell you, Fred, that's probably the biggest kick I get out of my job, is the amount of people that don't know this exists. Like I say, most of the car dealers know all about it. Most of the Fortune 500 companies know all about it, but you get outside those two arenas, and I've talked to some of the most sophisticated business people that have never heard of this, and it's so much fun educating them about it and how it works. And the real fun begins is when they start their own reinsurance company. That's when the real magic happens, because then we start executing, we start finding out their goals, we start finding out what they're trying to accomplish with their business. We help them get competitive advantages in the marketplace. So it's really a lot of fun. We kind of turn into business consultants at that time. So anyway, I appreciate you guys. I've got long-winded, and I'm sorry, I'm really passionate about this stuff, but I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for having me on. And I would just encourage anybody, if they have any questions, get on a call with these guys, and we'll explain it.
Thank you so much, Scott.